listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. I'm Nancy Norton. I am a registered nurse turned comedian who now does keynote talks about the power of humor after getting certified in therapeutic humor from the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And yes, you can too. Just go to aath.org and you too can study therapeutic humor. It's pretty cool. I have to say, I learned a lot, and it's brought more meaning to my life as a comedian, knowing that we're actually helping people. Because humor is healing, humor is empowering, humor gives you resources, humor gives you resilience. I'm not going to do the whole keynote. It's pretty amazing what humor can do for you. I'm back from a 10-day tour from the Ozarks to the East Coast, home for a couple days, then heading back to Chicago to do some more Moms Unhinged shows in Chicago. Go to my website, nancynorton.tv, click on the, I don't know what it is called, upcoming shows. I don't know what page it is. You know, you can find it. Also go to Nancy Norton on Linktree. You can find my upcoming shows. All right. Thank you for listening. Our guest this week is somebody I met at a comedy show who was sitting on the front row, and she is from Nepal, where my son was born. And I was sharing a story about being in Nepal, and we talked after the show, and turns out she's also a podcaster, and her story's incredible. What a story of resilience this is, y'all. I'm looking forward to you hearing it. Thank you to my guests. Thank you to my listeners. I love hearing these stories of resilience and creativity and post-traumatic growth.
I had an arranged marriage, and he came to see me, and I said, listen, I drink, I smoke, and I'm not a virgin. So if you're looking for a typical, Nepali housewife to take with you and be your maid, I'm the wrong number.
We've all been through some stuff, and I'm amazed when people are willing to be this vulnerable, tell us what's happened, and then how they got through it. And every episode, I get a nugget. I got another nugget here today. So I hope you do too. And thanks for listening. Enjoy this episode. I'll see you on the other side. Trigger warning. This episode deals with suicide and child abuse. But it's not a downer. I can't explain it. It's traumedy. You guys, this is traumedy. Yes, we're going to acknowledge some things. We're going to drop in. But the tone, the overall vibe is uplifting. Believe it or not. Well, listen for yourself. Welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week is a podcaster who I met at a recent comedy show. Please welcome Jessica Kafle.
Thank you for having me.
The name of your podcast is the Relationship Roundtable, and it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You've only been doing this 2 months, and you already have this huge following and hours of playtime.
Yeah.
That's incredible. How did you get started? What got you started on this thing?
I think kind of, with every dark cloud, you have a silver lining. So I have a very different background because I was born and brought up in Nepal for the most part, and Kathmandu, Nepal. And I think that's what we connected over was Kathmandu, Nepal when we first started talking. But
yeah, because of my son is adopted from there. Yes, because my son's adopted from Nepal, and I was talking about Nepal, and you were on the very front row.
Yes.
And it just felt kismet, that we are, whatever, there's something about us. I really feel like we're meant to meet.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so for me, what happened was I've had this crazy life, and many people say they've had a crazy life, but I would argue that my life has been exceptionally crazy, and I don't mean that in a good way. Now, one of my favorite lines to go to is no news is good news, because that, like, no news signifies a level of calmness that that a lot of like news all the time doesn't do. So I grew up in an absolutely insane household where my mother, I do believe, is a psychopath. My dad has Stockholm syndrome. And, I got married, and my ex-husband, I believe is an asexual. And
it was an arranged marriage.
it was an arranged marriage, yeah. So all of these things put together, the silver lining was that I come from a South Asian background, and and I have the ability to talk about things that other people don't, because many times what happens when you come from a South Asian background, from Nepal, India, etc., is that our families are so it's a very family binding kind of environment that you can't talk about everything freely because you're kind of held back because you love your parents, you love your families, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, because I don't really have that. So in one way, I have this freedom that normal South Asian background women don't, because I don't have to worry, oh, will I hurt somebody's feelings if I say this? Because like my parents, I don't really talk to.
Are they still in Nepal?
Yes, they are still in Nepal.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then my ex-husband's family, doesn't really matter. And then I do have my now boyfriend who's very supportive of me. And so I have this freedom that is very uncharacterized for people of my background. So and obviously I'm very blunt and outspoken.
I know, I'm learning that. I love that about you. And I love that it gives me comfort. I want to say that there's something in me that's so relaxed because I know you're going to tell me, like, do you need a pillow for your back? Do you need something, to put your feet? Do you need, would you like a tea? And you're like, no, I don't drink tea. And it's like, I love that you're direct. I just want to tell you that. I want to celebrate that about you, not just as a Southeast Asian person, but also as a woman in our culture. I'm in a recovery program for codependency. I have a tendency to want to please people. And I love when people just relieve me of like, look, I'll take care of myself. I'll tell you if I need something.
Yeah.
It's so freeing for me.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. I mean, that's huge. But what year did you come to the United States, or that you left Nepal? Did you come directly to the United States?
No, so I have a little bit of a background story there. So the first time I came to America, I was 7 years old. So my dad was a diplomat. He was working with the IMF. So I came then for a few years. And then,
is that the International Monetary Fund?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had the right acronym for the right thing.
It.
So you were of the, what is that? Privileged class
of Nepal. Yeah.
Of Nepal.
So I would say maybe not the most privileged from Nepal, far from it. But at the same time,
but you had servants and you had.
Yeah. So we definitely.
All the comforts and nice things.
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in poverty. Maybe not the 1% in Nepal, but I would say definitely the top 5% as far as Nepal goes. My family goes, maybe the 3 to 5% as far as, privilege goes.
So your father's a dignitary and he's flying around the world?
Yeah. So at that time, he was a special advisor, I think, to the International Monetary Fund. So we came to America then. I was 7 years old. My older brother was, I want to say, I think I was 6 years old and he was 11 years old, something like that. So I came to America for the first time. And let me tell you just a quick story, is before I came to America, this was pre-internet, right? Keeping in mind for the younger generation, to have full context. I didn't know anything about America. I just knew America was this amazing world. So me and my older brother were brushing our teeth at night and he said, listen, I'm going to tell you something. Don't tell anyone, okay? You can't tell, Mama and Baba is what we called our parents. You can't tell Mama and Baba. And I said, okay. He said, we're going to go to America. And I was like, no way. Because America was this idea of this amazing thing pre-internet, and I'd only heard of. So I had an idea of America, and my English wasn't so great at the time. So I had an idea of America. What I now realize was what I'd watched was Back to the Future 2.
Two. Not one, but two.
So,
I'm trying to remember Back to the Future 2.
And maybe it was one. I don't know, but it was Back to the Future. I remember that. And I had watched hoverboards and flying cars. So I really thought that was America. I genuinely believed that you wake up and you press a button and this machine comes and bathes you. And then you press another button and your bed gets made. And then you press a third button and breakfast pops out in front of you. I really believe that was America.
I love that. I love that was your fantasy. And what a letdown we are.
It really. So I came to America and I was like, this is it. Like, but
just toilets that aren't in the floor or whatever.
You guys don't even have maids and servants. I don't know what you guys are showing off about.
Yeah.
But, so I remember being so disappointed. And I remember when we landed in America, it was night. And, growing up in Nepal, there would be, you've been to Nepal, so electricity. There would be some days when we would have electricity in the evenings and some days it would get blocked out. We landed in San Francisco for the first time in America. And I looked down as we were landing and they were like, this is America. This is it. And I turned to my dad and I said, Baba, is it Diwali here? Diwali is the festival of lights in Nepal.
Oh, because you saw the lights of the city?
Lights, because I'd never seen that much lights before. So I thought this must be a festival.
This must be Diwali.
So what I will say is America was very disappointing in that way from the technology aspect of it. You guys don't have...
Just one way.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the first way.
You guys didn't have hoverboards, But what I truly discovered the beauty of America was as I grew up, is America is a place that allows you to be whoever you are unapologetically.
Oh, or at least it used to be.
No, I still think that's there.
I know. I am just, lamenting the administration we now have where men will be men and girls will be girls.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, I'm a tomboy. I've been a tomboy my whole life. And anyway, good luck with that. But the individual. So individualism here.
Yes.
And
it's beautiful.
And then, I think there's some parts of us that have gone back and forth today. This has been a great day for me and my son because you came over. My son is 20. And, I felt like I really failed him because I didn't teach him Nepali. He doesn't want to go back to his country. He's just like, he's not that interested. And I just felt like, man, I must have really failed him in that way that I didn't instill enough pride or something in his ancestry. And you're just like, don't worry. Like, it was so good for both of us to hear you saying, it's okay. You be you. You be you, Nathaniel. And I'm me. I'm an individual. And like you were saying, back to the point you were making earlier, which is, in a way, because your family didn't have that tight of a family system,
right?
Like you had the servants. You said your parents went away sometimes to another country during the holy days, where a lot of families had that really rich bonding family love experience, or not. I don't know if it's love, whatever it is. It's bonding in that culture. You sort of were left with a babysitter. And you didn't have that. So the blessing and the curse, I guess, of having sort of a different family.
So, okay, I'll give you, it's just like so I don't celebrate like our big festivals, which is Dashera, Dasai, or Diwali. I don't have those same feelings towards that festival. And when I talk to a lot of people, they think, oh, she's trying to be too American. But what they don't realize is I'm not trying to be American. My parents left me alone with like the maids and stuff at home. And so because other times I had my friends I could hang out with. But during these festivals, my friends would also be busy with their families, right?
Yeah.
And so I was stuck at home. And at least Dasai is better because in Dasai you meet the larger extended family. But Diwali, everyone basically does it in their own families, in their own homes. So for me, the feeling of Diwali is there's nothing positive with it because I was stuck at home. There was nothing good on TV.
And no family.
No family. And it was a very lonely time for me. So for me, I don't evoke those positive feelings when it comes to Diwali,
Makes sense.
Because I was alone.
Makes sense.
But what I did do, so don't feel bad for me, because that's what I mean. It's like
you're acknowledging it, but I love that you're saying that. Don't feel bad for me. You got a nice smile on your face as you're talking about this. It's like
because what I did do is before Diwali, because I knew the lonely period would be coming in soon with Diwali. So before Diwali, I'd have this huge house party at home where I would invite, because all these other kids never were left home alone. They were always like, and parents tend to be very helicopter parents back home. So I would have like a Diwali party or like a party at home where I would make pasta and my parents would like leave me with a fistful of cash. So I would go buy fancy imported ragu pasta sauce and stuff like that, and make fancy pasta with fancy mozzarella cheese, which is all imported back in Nepal.
And that's a very special treat.
Yeah. And then I would have booze, unlimited flow.
Ooh,
and
Roxy Connie.
Yeah. And I would have house parties at home that were amazing. So, what I'm trying to say is life is always a package deal. Yeah. And you can sit and feel bad for yourself. But the nice part of all of that is that I grew up to be, exactly as you said, an individual who has the ability to think for myself. And I really am very resourceful in the way of being able to take the limited resources I have and making the best out of it. Like the house parties I had were amazing. And yeah, Diwali one day it was sucked and I didn't really get to have, I don't have that same feeling for Diwali, but I had other great things from it, So life is a package deal. I'm fine with the package that I got there.
I love it. I love the way you put that. And I liked earlier when you said the silver lining. I have a saying every cloud has a silly lining. Yeah. It's sort of and then somebody misheard me and said, I love your saying every clown has a silly lining. And I'm like, oh, that's better than
good.
I know. I'm I have to be honest. I love when the universe hands me gifts like that, because I'll probably write a book every clown has a silly lining, which is sort of what we do on Traumedy. We dip in, and yes, there was pain, there was abuse, there was these there are these traumas, and we're not in denial. We are acknowledging them, but we don't identify as a victim. We don't make ourselves, we're Traumedy's for people who are ready to take their pain and play with it, and are ready to oh, how could I look at this in a kind of funny way, or what are the not that I would wish this on anyone. The thing I've noticed, the theme running throughout is I would not want to relive it, and I would not want to wish it on anyone, but I wouldn't trade it either. So
I have this line that I always throw, which is people often cannot understand. They can't understand where to place me, right? And they don't understand it. And sometimes I have these discussions and people, it just goes over their head what I'm saying. And my standard line is, you're not going to understand it. And my prayer to you is that you never have to understand it.
Wow. Let's be with that for a second. Oh, man. You know what? You just gave me a gift, because, when I got into stand-up, I think it was to feel understood.
Yeah.
But the truth is, none of us can really, really know what it's like to have lived. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the whole soul thing is look, I'm living my life. I'm living your life. I'm going to try and share some of the things with you, but you'll never really know what it was like to have my mother. And I'll never really know what it was like to have your mother, but I do love the insights. But maybe you just freed me just a little bit. Maybe just there's a part of me that really has wanted people to know it on a level they can't know.
Yeah.
And I can relax a little bit. So thank you for that gift.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I mentioned earlier, I'm in a recovery program. I talk about it all the time, but I am in a recovery program for codependency, but also as an adult child. And one of the things we do I personally believe in a higher power. And there's something freeing in that, God sees, I don't have to prove I've been gaslit my whole life, or, people don't believe me about something. It's I have nothing to prove. God sees. And even if it's just me, and it's my higher self, because I do believe, my spirit self sees and knows the truth. Yeah. I don't know. There's some freeing. Just curious, no pressure, but do you have a spiritual belief system, or how's your, I know.
My spiritual belief system, so I did mention I have a crazy life. So just from a background, born a Hindu, never really practiced it, although was definitely influenced by it. And then I lived in a cult for about a year in a Hare Krishna temple. My parents dropped me off there when I was 12 years old, because their philosophy was you can have Eastern values with Western education, perfect combination. The truth is that they just wanted us to get a green card so that we could be in America. But the thing is that, so I've been exposed to everything. So the time when I stayed in the temple, it was like a Hare Krishna temple.
And I don't know much about the Hare Krishnas, but except for their food, I love their cookbooks. I'm going to be honest.
Oh yeah, the vegetarian cookbook, of course. Yeah,
there's a place in Denver you can get a nice lunch over there on Cherry Street. Okay.
So as far as the Hare Krishna, so when I stayed in the temple, it was very insightful. What I realized is that yes, we're all spiritual, but ultimately, everyone wants to get closer to the power, whatever the source of power is. And in the temple, it's guru is the source of power. Everyone wants to be closest to the guru. The guru wants to be closer to God. And like the guru's word is basically gospel, right? So, and I could always put pieces together at a young age. And I realized at a young age that ultimately everybody wants power. How is this different from any corporate organization? And the more insightful part was that, like people in the temple, it was very like within the temple kind of environment. But at the same time, money was still very powerful, because donations were important. Right. And we called it Lakshmi, but at the same time, donation was very important. So I think I understood the business aspect of it very innately. So my idea of spirituality or religion is be good to people, and if there is a heaven or hell, who knows if there is or not? What's God going to do if I do end up dying? Saying, you know what? You didn't believe in me, but you were really good to everyone around yourself. You should go to hell. No. So I think I'm staying in the safe side because I'm just good to people and genuinely, and I live a good life that I can look at myself in the mirror and be proud of who I am. And as long as I do that, nothing else matters, the spirituality aspect of it. But as I've gone through different parts of life, ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of life, I do believe that there is somebody looking out for me. And that is my internal system. And my boyfriend is not like, he's not religious, doesn't really believe in God. And he always argues with me. And my pushback to that is, what do you have to lose? It's something that gives me strength when I need it. It's someone who I believe is looking out for me. Why you want to ruin that for me? It's not taking anything away from me. But one part that I will say is like, as far as people goes and what their belief systems are, I'm like, you do you, whatever helps you get through life. And like, for example, what my boyfriend said, right? As far as, well, it's just a source of argument, like, fun debate for us. But ultimately, he's living his life. I'm living my life. Wherever you get strength to live your life. And I don't think you're innately good or bad just because of what your belief system is. It is ultimately, you have so many religious people, Christians, etc., who get into, like abusing children, etc. So, and there's lots of atheists who have amazing moral ground system.
That's right.
I'm more agnostic. So whatever it is you believe in doesn't matter as long as you are a good person. And that is what helps you cope. Then do you.
Yeah, I agree. As long, and then especially as we're not imposing it on other people. And I really have to watch that myself. Like, just because I think that's a spirit sign, I'm also open to you saying that's just a coincidence. Whatever, like you said, it's individual. Whatever gives you strength. Yeah. But okay. This is what happens with my ADHD, because I'm going to go tiptoeing back to you're 7 years old. You're about to land in San Francisco. Yeah. And I don't know if there was more to that story, but that's the first time you came to the United States was at 7. And you thought it was Tihar, not Tihar, Diwali.
Diwali, yeah.
And there's a
Diwali.
light, because Tihar also has lights.
It's the same thing, Diwali and Tihar. In Diwali, they call it in India, Tihar in Nepal.
Oh, those are the, I see now I was thinking those were the same, but I wasn't sure. The Festival of Lights.
Yes.
Which is after Dasai, after the Dasai holiday, right? Yeah. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, you asked your dad, but then, so
that was the first time I came to America. Then the second time I came to America was when I was staying in the Hare Krishna temple. Right?
At 12?
Yeah, around 12.
Okay, so that was in the United States. Okay,
yeah, that was in the United States and North Carolina.
Oh.
I was staying in the Hare Krishna temple there. And, I think this part is interesting, is basically what happened was my parents decided to leave me and my older brother in a Hare Krishna temple. My older brother was there before. He was 13 years old when my dad was a diplomat and he had to go back to Nepal because his term ended. So we decided to go back to Nepal, and my dad wanted to go back to Nepal because he knew he would have a better career track there. But my mother decided to leave my older brother in a Hare Krishna temple when he was 13 years old because she basically wanted to kind of use him to get a green card for herself.
Oh.
And this is where people don't understand the dynamics of how selfish my mother's intentions truly were, you know? So my brother went from living a diplomatic child's life where he could eat whatever he wanted. He wasn't even a vegetarian, etc. He ate a hamburger on the way to being dropped off to the temple.
Oh, wow.
At 13 years old, and my parents just like cut pretty much all ties with him and left him in the Hare Krishna temple and went back to Nepal so that he could get a green card, because at that time America was giving religious visas. I really missed my brother, so I wrote to the guru at the time, and they brought me also to America. So I was living in America at 12 years old.
So, and he's 5 years older by this time, right? Because you said he so you're 12, so now he's 17. And
he's 17.
He's been there for all those years.
Yeah, so he was there for all those years.
Living this different.
They dropped us off in the temple, and we lived in the temple. And so when I was living in the temple, I was basically living this typical temple life, waking up at 4 a.m., doing the puja. And I was so small. I was 11, 12 years old. I didn't want to wake up and take a bath in the cold of North Carolina at 4 a.m. So I would go and sleep in the bathroom and then wet my feet and be like, yeah, it's so cold, and come out and take a bath, and then go upstairs and do the whole Mangal Aarti thing, which is the temple's 4 a.m. ritual, which you had to do. So I did that whole thing, and then what I started seeing at the time was that they were trying to teach the main guru at the temple was teaching my brother that they'd figured out my father had money, because in between this time they had gone to Nepal, and they had my father had introduced the guru to the prime minister at the time, who was Girija Prasad Koirala, and all of these things. So they'd realized if you go to my house in Nepal, the wallpaper, all of that is imported from America. The tiles on the floor are imported from America. So they figured out, okay, these people have money. So they were trying to teach my older brother to take his share of property and donate it to the temple.
Oh, wow.
So I was 12 years old at the time, and I was just putting these dots together. And I realized ultimately it's all about money. And I still remember the guru he kind of had this throne kind of situation where he would sit on, and he would give lectures, and he would say, there's this one guy whose parents were well off, and how convenient. He would always give lectures to people on the basis of what the outcome he desired from his quote unquote disciples were,
Wow.
So he would say there was this one guy, he had cancer, and he knew he was going to die, as in go to live with Krishna, which is the form of God. So they know that he's going to go live with Krishna. So he didn't even get therapy. And he said cancer chemotherapy. And he took that money and donated it to the temple. What an amazing soul. So they were basically indirectly brainwashing my 17-year-old brother to
sacrifice his own life for the temple.
Yeah. So
sacrifice anything.
Take money from my parents and donate that to the temple.
But to the point of abandon oneself, like if a cancer patient, I'm not even going to get therapy.
Yeah, so because
chemotherapy.
Ultimately I'm going to go to God faster. So all of this is material.
You don't matter. You don't matter at all. It's just a matter of how can you serve your temple.
And then another thing that I saw at the time was there was this one older lady. Her name was Chintamani. And she was an older lady, I think a widower, because she always wore white. So I'm pretty sure she was a widower. And Chintamani.
So is that a hint? Can I ask you something before? Sorry for a little bookmark there. Hare Krishna. Is it the same as Hinduism, or is it
No.
a separate
So
sect?
Hare Krishna, I would say, is a cult form of Hinduism.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, under Christianity we have like the Lutherans and
No.
and
Hare Krishna was like started by this one guy, Indian guy, who came to the West, and I think like the philosophy he basically made up of his own. He created own scripture on his own called the Bhagavad Gita for Hare Krishnas, and kind of did his
Okay,
own
so
thing.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
I always wondered. I mean, it's because Krishna's a Hindu god. So
yeah, the philosophies are
it's a
very
whole-
intricately different versus the larger Hinduism versus Hare Krishna.
Okay, thanks for telling me.
Because you cannot convert to Hinduism, but you can convert into Hare Krishnas. In fact, so they're fundamentally
You cannot convert to Hinduism?
No, you cannot.
Oh, I
So
never knew this.
If you come to Nepal, or certain temples, they won't let you in because you're white, because you don't have the ability to convert into Hinduism. You can only be born into Hinduism.
And when I was in Nepal, this is so interesting because I wanted to say something about the hamburger because, I'm a vegetarian, but I have eaten meat in the past.
Yeah.
So, and again, I call myself a hypocrite. Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I do cheat with fish occasionally, and I have, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, I know when I was in Nepal, I was not allowed into the temple. And they would tell me, because you're a Westerner, we don't know if you have eaten meat. And therefore,
Yes.
and that is the reason they told me, you may have eaten Lakshmi, you're not allowed in this temple. And that was how they that's how they told me, because you're white.
I could have eaten beef,
But
but
they-
they'll let me in.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second. I bet, because I know.
look brown.
But anyway, okay. So I didn't know you couldn't convert to Hinduism, but that's a good thing to know. But
Going back to the story of Chintamani.
yeah. And then the
right?
whites. But this is what prompted it was because, in America, widows often would wear, back in the day, wear black. But you're saying in the Krishna. it's-
Hinduism also white.
Okay.
Hinduism
All right.
also white.
Now we're caught up. Now we're
Krishna
back.
conscience also white, right? So
There was this
lady,
woman.
yeah, Chintamani, and Chintamani was Chintamani was the quiet introvert in the corner that nobody really noticed. Background lady, did her thing of spirituality, wasn't really a focus. You have extroverted personalities. I'm one of them. Chintamani wasn't really one of them. Very easy to go in, go out, and not realize, not really notice her. And then she was about to hit a certain age, so she was starting to roll in her Social Security money. And all of a sudden, the guru started focusing on Chintamani, right?
And you noticed a lot.
I don't, yeah, that's one
You're
thing.
very observant.
Yeah, so even at a young age. So I noticed that, and he started saying, oh, Chintamani's rich now. She's got Lakshmi coming in. Chintamani is rich now. And there was just, because the guru basically has this form of almost celebrity status within the temple.
Sure.
And when somebody like that is coming and giving you attention, that is a high for anyone, right? It's like you can compare it to your daily life. It's the teacher out of 25 students that's giving you attention. It's anytime you find an authority figure, it's the police officer that walks up to the crowd and picks one person and asks, what happened over here? Every time you have an authority figure that comes out and gives you special attention, it does something to you, right?
Yeah.
Probably the same effect that I'd have if Jason Momoa came up to me and said hello, but you know what I mean.
I don't know who that is.
He's like Aquaman, basically.
Oh,
I'm just making a joke.
no, I know, but
Yeah.
I feel
He's just hot.
I knew what you were implying, and
Yeah.
I should just play along, but I'm like, I don't really know who that is. I'm so out of it, and like I told you earlier, I'm barely sexual
Yeah.
at this age, so I'm sort of like love scenes in movies. I fast forward. Honestly, I'm like, let's get on with the plot.
Okay, but yeah, so basically, so that kind of happened.
Yeah.
So the guru was giving her this undivided attention, which I'd never seen him give to her before. Yeah. So overcome with overwhelm, I would say, at being on the receiving end of that attention, she said, Gurudev, I will basically not sacrifice, but I think the word is give you all the Social Security money that I get, I would like to give to you, because that's ultimately what he was trying to do.
It's
I don't know.
just so easy. Played her like a fiddle.
Exactly. And then what happened? So I was a little uncomfortable with that fact that this old lady, he was taking her money, and I'd seen how he didn't give her attention before. Then all of a sudden he was giving her all this attention, and then she donated her money to him, like all of her future income also through her Social Security. She said, you get all of it. So he basically siphoned that into himself. And then here is what really woke me up is I was uncomfortable till then, but I was still observing. The temple room where all the devotees or the people who basically were in the cult, I will say, with that situation, they would come and eat food, and the food was served at 1 or 2 p.m., something like that in the later afternoon. And everyone would come and eat, but sometimes the people who worked outside of the temple, they would only get off at 4 or 5 p.m. So they would come back and have to eat their lunch late. And the temple didn't serve dinner at the time. So she bought a microwave for everybody to use, not to keep in her room, not for everybody, but in the common serving room temple, a microwave so that people who came late didn't have to eat cold food, which just seems like such a kind thing to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what he said to another lady who was kind of like a little bit of his, posse kind of thing, somebody who did the dirty work for him, he turned to her and he said, listen, tell Chintamani that if she's going to say that she has given this money to me, that she's like offered it to me, right, as an offering, she can't go and use it for whatever she wants. And that was just, this is not a good place kind of thing. Many times I've noticed that people often underestimate children. What they forget is that children grow up to become adults and they have the ability to piece things together. I think that's one of the mistakes my mother made too.
I like how your eyes were kind of going back and forth a little bit. Like, listen, we grow up, we become adults, and we will tell the truth. There's this whole thing, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, is part of the culture of dysfunction in families. But and a cult is like a family. A family is like a cult, I should say. Yeah. And so here you are, you're an adult, and you're like, now I'm going to tell the truth about what my experience was with that cult. And it's so prevalent, the corruption, and people cannot handle their power. I mean, maybe it's all about power. Money and sex are just subsets of power.
And what is it about? I think it's about two things. If I was going to put it into two broad sections, it basically comes down to, I think, primarily people focus on 4 main things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending.
And I would say animals, sleeping, not just people, all animals.
All animals. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But beyond that, because human beings were more evolved, I think one more layer to that you can attach is influence. The power of influence. When it comes to money in itself, I mean, it's just paper. It has no value. But the influence that comes with money, I think that is powerful. When it comes to influence, as parents, the influence we have on our children. When it comes to influence, anything, I think influence is the real currency.
Interesting. Influence, I feel, when I think about it in a basic term, also goes back to in defending, you want your values to perpetuate. You want your family to have intergenerational wealth, or you want your culture, whatever, this guru, that's where I get.
Or even if you look at like the Instagram models and stuff, it's influence. That is also influence. I mean, the word is influencer.
Yeah, influencer.
Right? Yeah, so it's the power of influence. I think that among human beings, that is probably, and it's a very powerful power to influence, because I have the ability to say, let's do this, and people, this is a great product. And then all of a sudden you have hundreds of people going and buying that product. Power of influence.
I love that you're bringing this up, because today what I find is I can be in a very, and I want to say I meditate, and then I also get really high on nature. So I get this like blissful state of peace, serenity, okayness. And then I'm telling you, if I open my phone and I look at my Instagram, and there's been times in the past where my Instagram blew up, where it's like, whoa, 100, like hearts and new, whatever, one video goes viral.
Right.
And that dopamine or whatever you get from that, or like, I'm really okay. Oxytocin, dopamine, all those. And then lately, I haven't been doing anything on Instagram, so it's really flatlined and actually going down. Like my followers have gone the other direction. So I'm like I'm trying to understand this on a very basic level of, am I safe? It still goes back to defender and safety and protection. I don't know. What I want to understand is what are we trying to do with our influence? Like I'm trying to separate my ego with this project of Traumedy. I really want to, like, my mission statement is co-healing, help heal myself and others by sharing these stories, by sharing, like we do in our recovery meetings, sharing our experience, strength, and hope. Like, but I don't know. It's not, and it's so interesting because I keep trying to resist. As a comedian, there's this whole, like, what is fame? Fame is just that many more people who don't really know you. But I have watched some of my friends become famous, and now they're working with big names with a lot of money, doing big projects that they're getting out into the world, which I think is important. I don't know. I'm trying to separate influence from fame, from ego. Is there any?
I don't think there's much of a difference.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to go live in a little cottage and have a cup of tea and a stick to poke a fire. But then I want to have influence, I guess, over the squirrels because I see myself feeding squirrels peanuts. They're my friends. I don't know. Like, what's a healthy amount of influence and what's a corrupt amount of influence? And how do you know? Like, this is the difference between, like, ego. Like, I look at a malignant narcissist who I personally believe is the president of the United States is a malignant narcissist. Right. Now, I know that anybody that rises to certain levels, CEOs,
yes,
there's a lot of narcissism in our culture in general.
Right.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, aren't there people that want to do really good work? Like, what is the guru's ultimate goal?
I'll answer the question for you. I think the problem is not that power corrupts all. I do think that power or influence brings out the real intentions that you really have. It makes you more of who you are. So I don't think there's anything wrong with power or anything in itself or influencing, but more so the intention behind it of the individual. And it's like what we first talked about, right? Not all religious people are good. Not all Christian people are good. Not all atheist people are good. Not all Christian people are bad. Not all atheists are bad. Not all Hindus are good. Not all Muslims are bad or good. So I think ultimately it's the intention behind the individual. And that's why it's so hard to not stereotype and still feel safe.
Yeah, you're right. I know it helps sometimes just to have that sense of like, oh, I'll put that. Well, like I said, when I went to Nepal to adopt my son, and they asked me, would I want to adopt from a Buddhist orphanage, a Hindu orphanage, a Christian orphanage? Christian was my least preferred because of my experience with the Baptists in my hometown who told me I was going to hell. Right. Just because I wasn't a Baptist. And they, that was before I had alternative lifestyle. I was a tomboy, but I wasn't even sexually active. I was just a kid playing basketball in my backyard. Yeah. And they would come to me and go, do you go to a Baptist church? And I said, no, I go to a Lutheran church. And they said, well, you're going to hell. And I just was like, I don't want to be around those kind of people that think I'm bad just because of my religion. And that was my experience with that. Yeah. But I'm sure you've had it could be with any religion, like you said, people that think they're the one. I just feel like people don't handle power very well. But he had to make sure that everyone in that temple knew that anything that anybody enjoyed or any privilege passed through him.
And also we used to do this thing on Sundays where when I think about it as an adult, I'm like, Nancy, I am not exaggerating. Sunday morning, we used to have something called Guru Puja, where he would sit down on a throne, a real throne, and he would, like, let's say in the Ziploc bags, there would be food in little Ziploc bags, like little treats, right? Like a laddu or a little bit kheer or like a little bit of halwa. These are all little different desserts that they have in the temple. And he would bite into it, and whatever was like with his germs, he would take that and throw it into the crowd. and people would have to fight for that and eat it. And I'm not exaggerating. I remember one girl saying, "Ooh, this has like it was a little bit more mushy food, so this has like more of Gurude's saliva in it, which meant it was better, you know?"
Oh, wow.
So to be at that level as a mere mortal, where you're sitting on a throne and throwing food at people, that people are like staggering over and catching, falling, literally fighting for it, and eating it, is just, there is a level of cognitive dissonance there, which is unreal. And when I look back and think about it as an adult, he's just human. And so
you look at it from a higher perspective, and you see him as he's just a human, but also,
Desi, what kind of person sits on a throne and thinks it's okay to throw food at people that are fighting over your germy food?
that's a sickness of some sort.
Yes. And like, what would I ever, like, I have a son who is 11 years old, and I might eat a bar of chocolate and think, okay, too many calories, maybe I shouldn't eat it, and say, hey, you want to eat the rest? But I also eat his, you know, like if he throws food, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to throw food, I'll finish it off for you. That's different. But sitting on a throne and throwing food at people as they're singing for you, and like Jaya Guru Dev, like, you know, singing for you. So my older brother at the time stayed in this temple. So what I did was I called my parents up, not my parents, an aunt up, and I told her, listen, this is what's going here. And they were telling my brother not to go to college. They were saying, why do you need to go to college? Take all the money from your parents, donate to the temple. The same guy who, like, you know, had cancer and didn't need to get treatment, he donated to the temple. He was an amazing elevated soul. That's why he did that. You should be an elevated soul. Like, and he had a rap song, when it, like, people who know rap will laugh when they hear it. The words of it, I still think I remember a little bit. He used to call books stool, and then he used to say, he had a song about college or education, name calling professors and basically saying piled higher, higher, higher in the stool, as in reading too many books was the analogy. So if you don't call this a cult, what do you call a cult? You tell me.
No.
You know?
Oh, no,
So
100%. I'm hearing you, because it's
I
like
called my aunt and I said, this is what's going on. So then my aunt called my parents and said, apparently this is what's going on. Then my father somehow organized some meeting to come get us. And then me and my older brother were both pulled out of the temple. And then we went to Nepal. Now here came the struggle with my older brother, who ultimately ended up committing suicide, by the way. So, you know,
so sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, so my older brother now had to, from 13 to 17, he was at the temple. And they wanted to keep him until he was after 18, because in America, you're an adult after 18, and they couldn't have taken him after he was 18. So my parents had to come and pick him up before he turned 18 for that to not happen. So anyways, that happened. And then
now, when you say that they couldn't pick him up, that you mean that your parents would not have parental control because he's after the age of majority. Yeah. Okay. So it was about your parents, like, oh man, but so they did believe you, and they did, even though your mother wanted the green card. She wanted the green card, but she did.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
It's ultimately about, like, the larger community, you know? And so I told my aunt. I didn't tell my parents. And my aunt and all were like, oh my God, apparently this is what's happening. So if my parents didn't come and pick us up, that would make them look bad.
Oh,
you know? Yeah.
Good job. So you knew how to work the system, your family system.
Oh yeah. I've always been, I think, a little sharp that way. Like I told you earlier, I see resources, I know, even with you and me, right? And that doesn't mean I have bad intentions. Because I have my relationship roundtable. As soon as you started talking about your son and Nepal, I was like, I want her on. So you saw, like, yeah, I stayed back, I talked to you, I made sure. And then even for us to be here, I followed up with you a few times, sent texts. So I know what I want and I know how to get after it. And I kind of have this ability to see the world without the filter. So, so that was the second time I came to America. And then the third time I had an arranged marriage and I came to America through my ex-husband. But going back to the podcast now, of what my intention of the podcast is, I had an arranged marriage and then, with my ex-husband who was asexual, and I actually had him on my channel and interviewed him. So if you want to go see that, please.
I can't wait to hear that. I really want to hear that,
really
because
interesting.
the topic of sexuality is so interesting.
And
being
he's
an
a very intelligent and insightful person. He's a kind person. So whatever happened between us, we've buried the hatchet and we're really good friends at this point.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that the way you told me how you tried to push him away. You wanted to test and see if he was expecting you to be a typical Nepali woman.
Yeah, so I talk about that in the podcast where he came to see me and I said, listen, I drink, I smoke, and I'm not a virgin. So if you're looking for a typical, Nepali housewife to take with you and be your maid, I'm the wrong number. This is exactly what I said to him.
Yeah.
And it was like the test for me. Yeah, so I talk about that in the episode where I have him on. But, so I did that. And so I was fascinated with the subject of sexuality after this, because with my ex-husband, is he gay? Why is he not interested in me? So here's the very interesting thing, and this I forgot to mention in my podcast, so I'll mention it here. A month after being married, understand, I'm on a dependent visa because he was doing his PhD. So which means I don't have a social security number, though I'm in America legally, because I couldn't work. That's why I didn't have a social security number as a dependent of somebody doing their PhD.
Did you say you could not work?
I couldn't work
because you did not have a way to pay taxes?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because I was on a dependent status of a student. That's why.
Wow.
I
didn't realize.
Specific visa for that, right?
Whoa, that could really make you an indentured servant.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're in an abusive marriage, that's horrible, right? So that was the situation I was in. And I came here, and a month after I came here, my then husband sat me down and said, you can sleep with anyone, just don't fall in love. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, you can, and to be fair to him, I think he saw how frustrated I was, because I wasn't able to connect with my husband. I wasn't a virgin when I got married, so I knew what sex was, and I liked it. So when we got married, the fact that we couldn't have, it was very frustrating, because that's your husband. You want to connect,
Right.
And so he sat me down, and I think he understood the frustration. So he said, we were just trying to come up with a solution and brainstorming. I'm not saying he thought this through very well, but he said, you can sleep with anyone, just don't fall in love. And a month after I came here, and I said, but what if I fall in love with somebody? And he said, then you leave that person, go with somebody else. And
because he was just logically,
he was just trying to fix.
No, you know what? I have some friends who have been married, some gay men who have been married. I don't know. They have an open relationship, but they can only sleep with that person once because they don't want them to fall in love. They don't want it to jeopardize the relationship.
The emotional connection.
And you always have to ask. The other condition they have is you have to ask. You have to say, may I sleep with, Steve? And then the answer will always be yes. But that's their arrangement. That is their arrangement.
So here's the thing. And then so my, now boyfriend, I was telling him about this when we first met, and he was like, so you had a free hall pass to go with whoever you wanted? And I was like, yeah, but you got to understand, I didn't want to use that hall pass because I, by nature, am a very monogamous person. So for me, it might sound amazing to somebody, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted my husband. I wanted to be with my husband. I grew up without a real family. All that I dreamed about was a family. That was what I was hungry for.
Yeah. I so relate to that.
Yes. A sense of belonging.
Yeah, love. A sense of belonging and love and the family that we thought was possible.
Oh, by the way, me and my then husband decided to have a child. So we decided the terms of my son before we conceived him. Because my older brother committed suicide at a certain point about 3 or 4 years after we got married. And I didn't think I would survive. And I'd heard that if you get pregnant, your body produces hormones, which basically levels out what do you call that?
Depressive.
Like depressive thoughts to a certain, like,
Depressive
to a large
ideation?
degree. Yeah. And also I thought it'll give me something to look forward to.
Did you have suicidal ideation?
Oh yes, of course.
So
at the
that's
time.
why you didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
That's okay.
I didn't know. So you didn't think you would survive because you thought you would
Yes.
also die by suicide?
Because my older brother, who was literally my world, and both of us knew how crazy my parents were, somebody that I could talk to.
That's your only sibling?
No, I do have a younger sibling, but
Oh.
my parents have basically cut us off because they realized divide and rule is a better strategy. I won't say my parents, I'll say I do believe my mother is a real psychopath. I really believe that. And I think my father over the years has developed Stockholm syndrome. But my so my brother basically he killed himself, and I was with a husband who I had no relationship with. I didn't have anything to look forward to. So I just thought of killing myself. So I thought, and I didn't want to, we didn't have money to go to a doctor because my husband at the time was doing his PhD. He was getting $1,200 per month in stipend, and our rent was $1,000 living in Honolulu, Hawaii. So that was when I was in Hawaii. We talked about this.
Yeah. We both lived in Hawaii. That's wild. Okay.
So because of that, I went to him and I said, listen, what do you have to lose? You're not going to have a child with somebody else, probably. I didn't want to be 36, 37 years old, where I ultimately was in life, and desperate to meet the next man to have a child with.
Geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah. And by this time, I knew my husband was a good person. Like, whatever happened with the wedding, blah, 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 put it aside. He was a good person because I dealt with my parents, my mom, my whole life. And, so like he was a good person.
You felt safe.
Safety is a strong word.
Okay.
But there was a humanity to him in the way he treated me. There was humanity.
Was there
to it, for sure.
consistency or reliability or?
There was empathy.
There was empathy. Wow.
There was empathy because there were many times that I watched him break down and cry over him having snatched my dreams, especially knowing, like, we talked about my mom and how horrible she was and stuff like that. So he genuinely cared and still cares about me deeply.
I love
you can
that
see that
for
in
you.
the interview if you go in and see.
Yeah, I'm going to go watch it.
Yeah, there's like a sense and so for me, the bar was so low with my family that, I with my parents, like, they would wake me up in the middle of the night and beat me up. And then take me for a morning walk after that. Like, the level of was so bad, and the
crazy making,
and the lies, and it was just
abusive and horrible. And
it was beyond that. Honestly, like, that's a whole episode on its own.
Okay,
but yeah. So because of that, I basically started to think about having a child because that was my only survival. Because otherwise, I don't think I would have lived. And I went to him and I said, let's have a child. So we decided the terms for so that's why I have 100% custody of my son legally. All of these things because we decided these terms before we got pregnant. So we got pregnant after that.
He wanted to give you this. He wanted
a child too.
He did?
Yes.
Oh,
he
okay.
wanted a child too. And then.
But he was okay with not having custody.
Yeah, because I think, again, he's a good person. He had empathy for me, and he felt bad because he felt like he'd snatched somebody's dreams. And that wasn't his intention, but he also knew I was a good person. And, like, relationships are complicated, and this one was complicated in its own way, right? And for me, that was more empathy than my mother had ever given me, or even my father.
I
so
hear
the
you.
bar was already low, for me. So we decided to have a child, and then we had a child, which honestly, I think it was such a good decision to do that because it gave me something to look forward to after being pregnant. And that's how I coped with my older brother's death, because I wouldn't have lived through that otherwise. I really wouldn't have lived. Yeah. So my older brother,
I'm going to ask not embarrassing, but I believe in reincarnation. Do you ever feel like your baby is your brother reincarnated?
I've thought about it, but I always go to, why does it matter?
I just didn't know if you saw something in his eyes, or you felt something in his essence, and then not to take away his own identity. I was just curious.
I will tell you one thing is that my son had a very severe speech delay, and my older brother basically, sorry for anybody, trigger warning here, talking about suicide a little bit, but he had roped himself on the neck. And I always thought, is that the correlation? That's why my son had
Like his
such a
throat
hard time.
chakra is blocked.
Something. Yeah. So my son had a major speech delay, repeat kindergarten, and it was very hard for him to talk. So yeah, I've kind of thought about it, but over the years, I'm like, why does it matter? Because, once you start thinking about it, you look for things, and I'm just like, it doesn't matter. At a
Okay.
certain point.
Okay. And
But it's not something that I haven't thought about. I have, but I've come to the conclusion of why does it matter? It doesn't.
okay. Just the fact that you love him as much as you loved your brother, and it helped you heal
Yeah.
something. Like you said, to have a heart connection with a family member.
Yeah.
You crave so deeply to have a heart connection with a family. When I adopted my son, I'm like I said on stage, like I joke about like I saved his life, but that's in air quotes. Like,
Yeah.
Honestly, I probably did with get him out of the hospital with IV antibiotics, but I know he saved my life.
Right.
Like he saved my life. And I have mixed feelings. Like, I'm like, am I just using this person to save my life? Maybe, but it's reciprocal. So I made peace with it. You gave your child life and you have this, you did, but you have this
He saved
beautiful,
me, really.
yeah, exactly. So the connection you felt when he was born, did it just awaken something in you?
I was a mom at that time. Before that, I didn't know what it meant to be a mom. And
So
at that point, I knew like I could. But I will tell you one thing. I thought I understood my parents logically before then, at least my mother. I thought I understood her before that. But once I had my son, I understood my mother even less. Because I'm like, before that, the logic that she gave me made sense. Like, oh, you do this because of this, because everything was, I remember her saying something like, she would have affairs and take us on her affairs. She was like freaking crazy, but and she was just horrible, honestly. If I were to seriously sit down and open up like that part of my life, people wouldn't even believe it, and many people would. They would cry at the horror, because people in my close proximity to Nepal and stuff think they understand my life, but it's very few people who actually know the full story, and it is far more horrendous than you can imagine. When I had my son, I was like, how could you? Like, I could never imagine doing that to my son.
And that's when you know she's a full-blown psychopath.
Yeah,
because you could not, in your right mind, this is where I'm like, my mom was not in her right mind at times, but also, how could you not want the best for your baby?
Not even best. Like, she would on purpose do things. Like, for example, it was my birthday once, right? Well, I might get a little emotional with this one, but I remember it was my birthday once. And I never celebrated my birthday growing up in my home. That just like didn't happen. But that also wasn't so uncommon in Nepal for people not to celebrate. So that's fine. But she went, this is the part they don't understand. She would go 3 steps further. It was my birthday. She knew it. And she was just horribly mean, having me like at that time, she told me to go down, wash the dishes and stuff like that. As I was washing the dishes, and in Nepal, we had to wash dishes. Like, you don't do it standing up on the sink, you do it sitting down. And then she would like come and grab my hair and literally like ground me to the floor, grabbing my hair. And then she was just treating me like that because it was my birthday. Otherwise, I didn't even go to the kitchen because we had maids and stuff. And then this neighbor of ours, her name is Bijaya, she came. She was like an older sister, more my older brother's contemporary. She came to give a birthday card because she thought it was a belated birthday. She thought she'd missed my birthday the day before. And she rang the doorbell, and my mom said, go see who it is. So I went, I opened the door, and she said, oh, I forgot your birthday. I'm so sorry. And she gave me the birthday card. And that card, the value that it had for me, I cannot even tell you. And then I came in and she was like, who is it? I said, Bijaya Diju. And she said, why did she come? I said, she came to give a birthday card. My mother said, whose birthday is it? I said, it's mine. And so that is a very small screenshot of my childhood. And then I went back to doing the dishes. And not because I had to. We had people who could do it just because it was fun.
For her to diminish you.
Yeah, diminish.
And
even like
not even that, but like being cruel to you.
Cruelty was the point.
Cruelty. And that's the thing that where we cannot, and I'm trying to understand them, and I have a lot of capacity usually, and I can't make sense of it.
So I have so much pride in the fact that I don't understand her. I have so much pride in the fact that I don't understand her.
I so get that. We get each other that way, I think. Of having come through something, and there's this whole thing about post-traumatic growth, and you're saying the silver lining, and it is, you have a sense of humor. There's like, even though like you touched in on something that was very painful for you, that you were told, not only do you not matter in this family, we're going to make sure that you're not celebrated on your birthday, and that you're actually punished. Almost like she's punishing you for being born. Like, do they use like? I'm
going to end this. I think we're at time. I'm going to try and end this on a very traumedy note for you.
Okay.
So in one way, and like, here's the thing. There's like one thing that I don't adhere to, and I actually really detest this thing, is if you have a traumatic childhood, you will end up damaged and horrible in some way. I'm like, no, you won't. If anything, you can be damaged. You have the option of that, but you can also choose to learn and grow from that, So for me, it's kind of funny, but I like when my parents would be beating me, and it was horrible beating. And not only would they beat me to the level where they would be spitting in my face and beating me, and I'd be crying. And they'd be like, look at her acting. She's just acting, and beat me even more. And then they'd be like, oh, you're going to act, and then beat me even more. So, I mean, when I say it was bad, I don't think people understand how bad it was.
And waking you up in the like you're sleeping.
Yeah, I'm sleeping. So waking me up by grabbing my hair in the middle of the night. Like I would have like that, fears for so long. I still kind of do, So I think my ex-husband, those things he was very empathetic to. And, so whatever happened between us happened, but I do feel like I was meant to run this relationship roundtable for all of these things. But so they'd be beating me, and as they beat me in my head, so I used to steal money because that was my coping mechanism, right? So in my head, I'd be auctioning. I'd be like, okay, I'm stealing 3,000 rupees. One slap, 3,000 rupees. Then they'd come and they'd pull my hair and beat me again, and be like, 5,000. So in my head, I'd be auctioning. And maybe that was a way for me to disassociate with the moment, to cope with it. God knows what it was. But you know what I did? I stole that money, and I could have done drugs. I could have done anything with that money. I started my own business with that money. So I started my own, because one thing I knew logically was that if I am independent, then they don't have control on me anymore. So at the age of 17, I started my own clothing business with saris, and I basically stole money to start a business, and that's what I did. So
I'm hearing this phrase, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Yeah. But I remember that moment so well, where I would be auctioning off on the basis of how hard the blow was that they beat me with. And I would auction higher up. And I remember there's times that I stole 20,000 rupees but there was still a structure to how much I stole. And that's as an adult, I look back and I'm amazed at myself that I still had a moral grounding there of how much I would steal and how much that blow was worth. Not that, that was worth anything. Nobody should do that. That shouldn't even be a thing. But I still had that structure, and I'd be like, okay, that was worth 8,000 rupees of worth of beating, And then I would steal that, and I stole money and actually started my clothing line, and I would make designer saris, and ultimately I came in the newspaper Himalayan Times, which is a newspaper in Nepal, for an up and coming entrepreneur. And I did that literally with stolen money that I was beaten to get. So, and I just think given the life that I've had, why wouldn't I want to start something like the Relationship Roundtable? Because for me, I feel like everything I've had in my life, everything I've gone through has led up to this moment to start this.
I'm with you 100%. You've been listening to Jessica Kafle. Tune into the Relationship Roundtable on YouTube. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and why we're doing Traumedy.
It's been fun. Yeah, for sure. I look forward to having you on my YouTube channel as well.
I want to thank my guest, Jessica Kafle. Wow, what an amazing experience it was just to have her come into my home and talk with me and my son as a Nepali person who's very much an American as well. It was great. I think it was really helpful for my son because I've been trying to get him to go back to Nepal, embrace his culture more than he wants to. And it's like, she's like, you're fine. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. You can just do whatever you want. And I'm like, man, as a recovering codependent, I can't hear that enough. And I just want to say how much it felt like an old friend when she came over. We just felt super comfortable. We were, I don't know. There was just, it's that, when you just feel emotionally safe with someone and they're relaxed and they're just real. That's how I felt with Jessica. So thank you, Jessica, so much for that. And I think you brought a little healing to my son and myself with some of the guilt that I have felt about him not going back to Nepal. And I don't want to force it. And I've been taught that through a lot of adoption conferences and adoption counseling. Like, it's got to be him that wants to go. And he just doesn't want to go. So I felt like, I failed the Nepali people by not instilling a little stronger sense of Nepali pride or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's all good. It's all perfect. And I do want to thank my son, Nathaniel Norton, for creating this music loop that I enjoy on Traumedy. And obviously, I just want to thank him for being my son. He is 20 years old now, and he is free to go. So far, he's hanging out. But anyway, okay. I hope you all are loving yourselves out there. And thank you again for this co-healing that I feel doing this podcast. It is amazing. It's really, thank you, higher power, for giving me the creative idea and the creative juices and the creative fortitude to keep doing it. I love doing it. So thank you. Tune in again next week for Traumedy Tuesday. And no matter what, keep laughing.